Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Strong, President and CEO at Building Transformations and Principal at Wire Construction. Today, I had the privilege and opportunity to chat with Tim Coldwell and Gilles, who are both executives working for Chandos and Bird Construction, respectively. These two individuals are some of the most progressive people working in our industry, and they have led this new initiative for these two major general contractors. Chandos doing about $700 million a year, and Berg doing about $2.5 billion a year. These two organizations have gotten together and created a new not-for-profit organization called Building Good. And their goal with this organization is to ultimately improve the ecosystem in our market to address some of the common challenges that we have around how the industry operates, trying to drive more transformation using technology and innovation, but also more importantly, more social goals around improving the environment that people are working in, attracting more people to our industry. We're all struggling with finding very good people, and improving the environment that they work in from a social standpoint. So this is like addressing some of the issues that the construction industry has had in the past. So both organizations very progressive. Shandos is actually a B Corp. Which when it looks at its organization, the highest value in that organization is creating social good to the world, which is very interesting. And Berg Construction has been a very active leader in all sorts of initiatives, with taking the lead and starting to train indigenous people who are interested in joining skilled trades and general contracting, attracting more women to the industry. They've been very out in front with making big investments in prefabrication and other things that drive sustainable improvements in our industry. So really excited to chat with these two guys, leaders, definitely leaders in their organizations. Tim is the president of Chandos, and Gilles is the chief operating officer for Bird. So I hope you enjoy it. We cover quite a bit of subject matter, but it was a great interview. Okay, I'm here with Gilles Royer and Tim Coldwell. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We're obviously here to talk about your joint initiative, which is super exciting and really interesting as well, just that these two major construction companies, major general contractors in Canada here have decided to get together and join efforts to help to drive a better working environment, a better industry for everyone to work in. And I'm excited about this because there's a high degree of alignment with Building Transformations and our goals around, improving our industry and introducing new technologies and innovation to the market, and also, improving the wellness and improving opportunities for people that work in our industry and attracting talent to the industry. So, building good, goodwill, good work, good people. Tim, Gilles, welcome.
It's great to be here.
So maybe we can start just kind of a high-level introduction to both your companies and yourselves, and I'll throw it over to Tim first. Maybe Tim, you can give us a quick high-level intro to Chandos and your career path. How did you get here?
Yeah, so we describe ourselves as a purpose-driven national technical builder that's leading change in the Canadian construction industry. The purpose-driven part, we're the world's largest B Corp certified contractor. National, we're national contractor. We've got 7 offices across the country, and technical builders, just a way of saying that we specialize in complex work. We're not necessarily the right guys to build a warehouse in a field with 4 walls and a roof. My personal story, I've been with Shandoff since I was 17, turning 18. I self-identify as an at-risk youth, and Chandos hired me back in the day, and I found a second family and a sense of purpose that's driven me over the years in the construction industry. So really excited to be here today.
Excellent, Tim. Thanks, Gilles. And you're joining us from Edmonton, is that correct?
I am. Thank you, Tom. Yeah. So a little bit of background on Bird. So we're a 100-year-old construction company, really operating from coast to coast across Canada. I think you're probably aware in 2020 we purchased Stuart Olson, which is another 100-year-old company, and really effectively double the size of Bird overnight. We have a workforce of about 5,000 people, which 3,500 of those people are sort of our tradespeople. And we believe in investing and growing and developing our employees, and that's what drives the success of our company. My own personal story, a little bit like Tim, I'm a long-term Bird fella. I joined Bird in 1991 as a co-op engineering student and worked most of my co-op terms for Bird, and just took progressively more senior roles, eventually leading to my current position, which I assumed in 2020. And just being in Alberta, boom times the last 20 or 30 years, and a lot of opportunity here. So it's been a great ride for me, and I'm really happy to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, thanks. And, again, guys, I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk about this initiative. We do think it's super important. It's a rare opportunity for me to get to talk to a couple titans, like leaders in the industry. I'm curious, like going into this year, I guess we're, going into the second quarter. What's your top challenge with your business? Like, is it finding people? Is it just like, the aftermath and hangover of the pandemic with supply chain issues? Is it inflation? What's your number one challenge going into this the rest of the year, Tim?
It's always people. The construction business is a service business, and we've never seen such pressure in terms of the war for talent, for lack of a better term. So always focused on that. I also think that just call it broadly supply chain disruption for a whole bunch of different reasons is causing inflation. It's difficult. Owners, green light a project at a certain hard cost, and the market's going up faster than anyone anticipated. By the time we try to get the costs under control, the market continues going up. So you get caught in this kind of vicious cycle that's hard to break. So really working with our clients on how to break that cycle and get these projects into the ground is the big challenge here for the last half of the year.
Right on. Gilles, what's your challenge?
You know what, Tim and I are fairly aligned here. So I think people are just always, a challenge to focus on. But I was going to maybe comment on, it's been about 2 years of managing through COVID, and still a little bit of a COVID hangover, but I really hope we're coming to the tail end of it and we can get back to business as usual.
Right on. So, I mean, both your companies, obviously, you operate, I think across the country, right? And you're dealing with similar challenges. I think the whole industry is kind of trying to figure out how to attract more talent to work on all levels in our business. And we're competing now with like Google and aerospace and automotive. Everybody's hunting for people, right? So these are some of the common challenges that you have. And there obviously must be a lot more than that for your two companies to get together on an initiative like Building Good. So maybe you can kind of describe, how this came to be. How did your two organizations connect and kind of come up with this concept of driving this new initiative, and maybe give a high level intro to the initiative? And I'll start with Tim.
Yeah, and so I'll just start. I think some folks in the industry might be curious on how Chandos and Bird started doing joint ventures together. And Gilles went to university with one of the leaders at Chandos. Always stayed loosely connected over time, and as Shandoff picked up more and more IPD work, there was this conversation about teaming up on those sorts of projects. So Gilles and I had a chat, and we said, yeah, you know what, let's do this. And it's been very, very successful. I think we have, 6 or 7 projects at least. A total work program is pushing $1 billion or over $1 billion with our two firms. We're doing the largest IPD project in Canadian history. So it's pretty cool. And so, as we worked more and more together, it became clear that we shared values in a few key areas. And I'd say, the other thing I'd also say, when I was younger in my career, I had this thing about let's protect the secret sauce, for lack of a better term, or, I would be a bit angry when a competitor was doing better than us in a certain area. And as I've matured over time, I've come to learn that it's great when competitors do great things that you think is great, and vice versa. And so Gilles and I had this conversation about, well, what if we could team together on impact in the Canadian construction industry? We're great competitors day to day, But we can also do great things together when we focus on having an impact in society. And so that's the basic idea and the genesis story behind this.
Yeah, right on. And Gilles, maybe you can give your version of the story. How did your two companies start connecting like this and decide to ultimately try to improve the market together?
Well, as Tim said, our relationship started via a JV on a project, and it sort of blossomed to a number of JVs. And as part of that work program, Tim and I meet approximately quarterly, just stewardship over the projects and to keep tabs on how things are going. And really, as I've gotten to know Tim and Shandoff better, really, both are trailblazers in terms of bringing innovation to the construction industry. And so the logical next step was to work together on building good. And so far the partnership between Bird and Shandoff is going really, really well.
That's great. So what has been the reaction to the industry so far? I mean, have you gotten a lot of positive feedback on this? Do you have other facets of the industry, for the design, engineering, maybe owners trying to say, hey, like, what could we do to participate? Maybe I'll throw that over to Tim.
Yeah, you know what? When we first started this, the industry was like, what are you guys doing? And I think that was the first response. And then as we started to unpack it, I think the consensus is, oh, you know what? That's cool. You can, use your platforms collectively to have an impact in society. So, I think that's cool. The idea here is that it's not just going to be Chandos and Bird. We're in some conversations to invite a designer or two national entities into the platform. And really what's underneath of it is this idea of it's better to do things collectively together than it is to try to do big things individually.
So Gilles, maybe you can kind of explain short-term, long-term goals for the organization. Like you on your website, you've got a lot of information there, and I would encourage people to go check it out. But generally, what do you want to achieve over this 3-year term, working together to recondition the way the market operates?
Well, I think the short-term goals really is just to map out the future of building good, and we plan to announce new ways of engaging in the coming year. We've got some great initiatives planned for 2022, including 2 additional podcasts and lots of content on our blog. But really, I think from a long-term perspective, what we're after is just advancing the building good community to reach more of industry, right? And finding opportunities for broader collaboration and partnership in industry. And as Tim said, I think we'll be successful if other groups join us in this initiative. That's what we're really after.
So Tim, maybe you can give the high level, macro level version of what you want to achieve here. I know you got sort of 3 areas of focus that I want to talk about, but at a very, very high level, like why are you doing this? What is the core purpose of this initiative?
Well, I think contractors and designers forget how big of an impact we can have collectively in Canadian society. Just a few pieces. The construction industry is one of the largest employers in Canada. We're 30-some% of Canada's GHG footprint. Something like 30% of the waste in our landfills in Canada comes from the construction industry. And we have a huge impact. And I think that sometimes we as business leaders forget about the impact that we can have. And so at a big macro level, it's about mobilizing industry to have a positive impact on the environment and on society. There's kind of 3 buckets here: industry transformation, equality and inclusion, and a net zero future is what we're focusing on here for the next little while. But really, it's about impact and mobilizing the entire industry.
So Gilles, maybe you can give some examples within Bird around industry transformation. I know you guys are very advanced with prefabrication. You've got this, I think it's an investment with Stack, which is a volumetric builder, prefab company. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But I know you guys I've interacted with a lot of your people that are on the technical side that are driving innovation, introducing technologies. Obviously, this kind of stuff starts with your internal initiatives, and then kind of like showing off that capability, and then creating opportunities for the rest of the ecosystem to learn from that and build on it. Maybe you can give some high level overview of what you're doing inside Bird around specifically around industry transformation.
Well, maybe there's so many, Tom. Maybe I would just sort of tackle something that's fairly new to us, which is these IPD contracts that we've been doing with Shandoff in joint venture format. And I think we're seeing a lot of good in terms of delivery on an IPD contract. Couple things that I see that adds a lot of value is I feel like there's a lot more collaboration on technology on IPD contracts versus some of the more traditional contracting mechanisms. There just seems to be a lot more of a team effort on how we can bring technology to deliver our projects better. And I think also by partnering with subcontractors, I think oftentimes owners, architects, engineers, contractors, there's some contracting models where they partner, but with IPD, we're working a lot more closely with our subcontractors as well. And hence you get to see the impact of technological advance when the whole group works together. So I think that'd be one of the major areas for us.
Yeah, those are great examples, and those are the types of things that at Building Transformations, just to kind of plug, we'd love to highlight that, and I think there's opportunities for us to work together. I mean, if there's things that you want to put on a platform and show off, we'd love to continue to collaborate here and kind of show off some of these examples to move this agenda forward. Tim, maybe you can take the equality and inclusion part of the overall goals and describe. Shandos has been a real leader. Like, you've personally been very vocal on these subjects. What are you doing within the business? And obviously you're doing some passive things, like you got policies and procedures and this and that, but what are you doing actively? What are you investing in? What are you trying to drive external to your organization? Maybe give some examples of the more sort of like assertive things that you're doing to improve the market.
Yeah, I would say on equality and inclusion, the main thing that I'm personally very passionate about, comes out of my own personal story, is social procurement. And this idea that many owners in Canada, there's now over 100 owners in Canada that are making, say, 20% of the selection criteria when hiring a general contractor based on the social good that can be achieved through the infrastructure spend. And so examples of that that are near and dear to my heart is a lot of the Indigenous work we do. We have a large portfolio of Indigenous work across Canada. We're doing a job in Vancouver called First and Clark, where we've made a commitment to have 10% of the contract value as impact spend with local impact organizations, and to demonstrate zero premium capital cost associated with that. It's this idea of, we need talent in this industry, and we've got a labor crisis, and we can use our industry as kind of an escalator to the middle class. I think it's just a great opportunity for us to have an impact through hiring, through pushing subcontracts to subtrades that are owned by members of equity-seeking groups. There's all sorts of opportunity to use supply chain as a force for good.
Yeah, right on. So Gilles, maybe you can give some advice. I mean, you've been involved with these IPD projects, and I'm sure that those projects have like environmental or sustainability targets, carbon, et cetera. And when we think about the environmental impact of the construction industry broadly, there's kind of two buckets, I would say. There's the construction part where we're using energy and we're creating carbon to actually build things, and then there's the asset management piece and running buildings and trying to design buildings so they perform better. So looking at kind of the latter, when you interact with clients and you're in an IPD situation where they're starting to set targets, what do you see developing there? Like, do you see owners coming to the table with requirements around performance and energy consumption and measuring carbon? And what advice would you give to clients that are thinking about trying to reduce their carbon footprint as it relates to the latter half of the industry, like running buildings and incorporating strategies into design?
Okay, yeah, well, I would say we're certainly seeing a real shift with our clients now in terms of reducing their footprints. I'd say almost it just seems if in the last year or maybe last 2 years at most, just a dramatic difference in clients looking to embrace sort of their carbon footprint reduction. I think in terms of advice for clients, I think just engaging early, and IPD is an example of a contract delivery that allows the parties to engage nice and early. It's not the only one, but I would say if we're able to have early conversations, I think there's a lot more we can do as industry and as teams to deliver zero carbon solutions.
Right on, Tim. So, the problems that we're grappling with here in Canada around finding talent and building better performing assets and reducing racism and all these things that are occurring in our industry. These are major challenges that the whole world's kind of struggling with, and you see similar examples and similar challenges in the U.S. and Europe, et cetera. What do you think is the opportunity for Canada here? Like, what can we do to lead and set an example globally?
Yeah, I would say, I think we have the advantage of having a relatively low population in our country. It's funny to say this, but with a smaller population, I think the ability to actually make change is higher relative to some of the larger countries that have longer and larger populations and are more kind of entrenched politically. I think Canada is a nation where we can actually get these sorts of things done, and we can move things forward relatively quickly. I was just preparing for a talk I'm going to do here in a couple of weeks. The top 15 general contractors in Canada are something like $30 billion of revenue. And you get 15 people together in a room and you can make a lot of changes happen very quickly. I just don't think you can do that in some of the other countries that are out there. So that's the opportunity in my mind.
Right on. So I guess a question for both of you as we kind of wrap up. What do you want to leave the audience with? I mean, obviously we want to point everybody to your website and check out all your initiatives. So feel free to plug that. But at a high level, what do you want to leave our audience with around your initiative and what basically why is this important and what can they do personally? I'll throw it over to Gilles first because it's your turn to talk.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Tom. So really, I think seeing the innovation and advancements that are coming to our industry is pretty exciting for me, and I think the future of construction is pretty exciting. I would say, the message for the audience to me would be we just need to maintain our focus on building good. And I'm confident if we can just continue having conversations together on how we can create more of an impact, that will have a better industry. It'll just be better than ever.
Awesome. And Tim, how can we learn more? And if people want to get involved, how do they do that?
Yeah, so of course, check out the website. Feel free to connect on social media. There's kind of a media platform that goes with this. And I would say, a really good starting point is the podcast. We've got 3 seasons so far, and there's a couple more coming. So I think that's the place to start. You listen to the podcast, you listen to some folks chat, and you can reach out and connect with those individuals on LinkedIn and have a good conversation. I think that's a great way to get involved.
Yeah, well, that's great. That is, the number one way we can advance change in our industry is through, building this community, driving awareness, hosting the conversation, and just getting more people to include these values into their overall value system when they're procuring work, when they're executing work, when they're making hiring decisions, when they're thinking about ultimately everything that we do to kind of build the civilization around us. I think it's great what you guys are doing. I'm excited by it. I think it's, it shows a lot of leadership and a lot of grit and for the whole industry. Like, I just love it when competitors get together and work together to improve the ecosystem that we all operate in. So kudos to you guys, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again for joining us. Building Transformations is a non-for-profit. We're focused on delivering new technologies and innovations to ultimately improve our civilization. This organization is extremely busy. We have a number of different programs that we're managing every day, and we would love to have your participation. So please go over to cambim.com or buildingtransformations.org to get involved. You can check out everything that we're doing. Of course, tune in for our next events. We have a very active and busy schedule for the next 12 months. I also want to thank all of our supporting partners, and we have many of them that make this possible. We can't do this without you, and we really do appreciate it. And I just want to encourage everyone, of course, to subscribe, like, follow, share this content. We'd love to have you subscribing on YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button, and that way every time we publish content, you're going to get it. So thank you very much. Building Transformations is a CamBim production hosted by me, Thomas Strong, produced by Jerry Latman, visual and graphic effects by Allison Burgess, scripting by Joseph Watson, post-production supervision by Sergey Greshko, editing by Theodore Bazaar, and visual effects and editing by Musafar Malik.